Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, Deconstructing Narcissism. I just got out of work not that long ago and I stopped at the store for a second, but I wanted to talk about today kind of a new topic. Wanted to talk about today the reasons as to why I believe men are so miserable, and maybe I might be a little biased. Let me know down in the comments, because you know, a lot of these reasons are the reasons why I've been miserable for so long. But I think I'm gonna go. Number one, I think the reason men are really miserable is because I just don't think men get any kind of validation from really anybody. And I'm not even just talking about women. I'm talking about women, but I'm talking about just from anybody in general. Men work very, very hard in this day and age, in this society. You know, we bust our ass for a lot of times very low pay, or you know, we get decent or even high pay, but you know, we're doing trades, or we're doing very heavy lifting, or we're doing some kind of intensive labor job, and you know, you don't even get a pat on the back for it. You know, a lot of these guys, most of them, they don't have wives or girlfriends, or maybe they do have a wife, but the wife just doesn't care at all about them, or they go home and, you know, and it's like they don't even exist to them. Or maybe they just don't have anybody and they just don't get validation in general. They don't get told how, you know, if they're doing a good job. They don't get any words of encouragement. They go to work, they do their job. Maybe they get paid a decent amount of money, maybe they don't. And they go home to, you know, a lot of these men, they go home to an empty apartment. Or they go home to an empty room. They're renting out a room, like I'm doing. I'm renting out a room. And that's another thing, you know, a lot of these guys are living with roommates. They're living with 3 or 4 or 5 roommates. They're not able to rent out an apartment because a lot of them aren't getting paid enough money. You know, they're getting $16, $17, $18, or $19 like I am. And you're not qualified to rent out an apartment, and even 1-bedroom apartment. And, you know, if you check out one of my previous videos, I show that, you know, even clearly in Illinois, at the very least, and I'm sure it's many other states, you need 3 times the income. These landlords want 3 times the income, but their place is like 3 times worse than it was before. What do I mean by that? I mean, their place is old, it's dried out, it's dusty, the ceiling tile is falling apart. At least in the case of my apartment, it was. And a lot of these apartments too I've been in, the ceiling's falling apart. There's noisy neighbors or noisy tenants. They don't really do any renovations or anything to warrant the price increase, or the fact that most of these apartments are asking for 3 times the rent, which is just an insane amount of rent. I mean, and men just don't know what to do. There are very few good paying jobs. You know, they're not getting any words of encouragement. They're not getting any validation from any gender, men or woman, any kind of words of encouragement. A lot of men don't have any familial support, don't have any family support, because a lot of us grew up with, you know, having baby boomers as parents, or having toxic parents in general. So we don't get that support that we desperately need. And then on top of that, it's another thing is we seemingly constantly have to please society. Society puts all these burdens on men, that we have to be strong all the time. We have to be making all the money. We have to constantly be chasing success. We have to constantly be chasing money. We have to constantly have all our ducks, you know, in order, everything aligned. And if we don't, we're laughed at. We're like a joke to society. We're laughed at by women. We're laughed at by men, especially. Men do a lot of the bullying. That's another thing, is men do a lot of the bullying to each other. You know, and one of my last videos proves that. You know, I had in one of my last videos, Unreal Man. small YouTuber, do a video about me. I made a video. I was complaining about the economy. I was down and out. I was feeling bad. And also, but you know, I made the video also because people like the videos on the economy. And what did he do? He makes an hour in, I believe it was an hour and 40-minute video, basically telling me to shut up, stop complaining. And at the end of the video, he tells me that I should throw myself on a railroad track or something like that. And he tells me I was, anyway, he goes into calling me a bunch of, you know, horrible things, basically tells me I should kill myself. And that's pretty much the end of the video. And so you wonder why men, you know, are so adamant about expressing how they feel. They're so adamant about getting therapy, getting treatment, because nobody seems to care about men. Nobody seems to care about men. And it's getting more and more evident as time passes, with more commercials, with more misandrous commercials talking bad about men, about, you know, that's another thing, is you always see the commercials always portray men as idiot. Okay? And they've been doing this we've been doing this for years. They've been doing it for years, portraying the man as an idiot. He's in the kitchen or he's in the living room, you know, and he spills, you know, a bucket of popcorn on the ground. The wife's like, not again. The wife has to go in and clean up all the popcorn with the vacuum and do this and do that. And then the man makes himself, you know, he makes an idiot out of himself again, or he trips over, you know, the dog's bone, or whatever. Like, men are always made to be out, like, you know, they're always made to be out to look like idiots in commercials. So, you know, men they're not feeling heard, they're not feeling seen, they're not feeling validated by anybody. And when they try to express their feelings, you know, to men, they're just told to shut up, deal with it, life's hard, get over it. Men aren't supposed to complain at all. Men are always supposed to shut up and keep pushing forward. And we're made to be out to be like we're some kind of, like we're like these Terminators with no emotion. Or, you know, even worse, we're made out to be predators. And that's another thing, is society makes us out to be predators. Like we're just predators by default. If we get accused of something, domestic violence or even worse, you already know, but I'm not going to say it because of YouTube. Then we're accused of, we're guilty, or I should say we're guilty as charged. We're guilty as charged. We're guilty until proven innocent. There is no court of law with men. If you're accused of something by a woman in America here in the West, if you're accused of something by a woman in America here in the West, you're guilty by, you know, you're guilty by association, or I should say you're guilty as charged. Guilty until proven innocent. You have to spend all this money proving your guilt. Then even if you prove your guilt, in the case of, in the case of Johnny Depp, the most famous and recent one in history, you know, and Johnny Depp is lucky because, excuse me, Johnny Depp is lucky because he had all the money in the world to get him out of, you know, he could afford the best lawyers in the entire fucking country to get him out of that situation with Amber Heard. But what about the average guy? What about the average man? What happens if the average man gets accused of, you know, the dreaded R word or domestic violence? They're screwed. You don't have the funds, you're screwed. You don't have the funds, you don't have the means, you don't have any connections, you don't know any good lawyers, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. It is over. You are castrated, not physically, but you are castrated by society. You are cast out of society. Your name is tarnished forever. Your reputation is tarnished forever. And it's over. Nobody's going to hire you anymore. Nobody's going to look at you in the same way again. And you might as well just leave society, because that's what happens when you're falsely accused of something you didn't do in society, in America, in the West, as a man. So that's another thing, is just men are really scared to speak up in general, or even talk to, you know, the opposite sex. I'm not saying it's going to happen with, I'm not saying it's all women, but still, it's the fact that it can happen. It's the fact that it can happen, and there doesn't even have to be evidence of it, and there's nothing you can do about it. All right? I mean, I can give you one more example. Tucker Carlson from Fox News got accused by a woman of the R word. I believe it was the R word. Correct me if I'm wrong. It could have been domestic violence. He was accused by a woman of someone he had never even met in another state, I think it was. It was like halfway across the country or something. And he had to spend all his money and fight these charges off. He had never even met this woman in his life. So, this is another reason why men are just, dropping out of society and why men are so miserable. It's just because the way society treats us as men. It's like we are criminals for just being born as men. And it's just crazy. And to top it all off, it's like we don't feel like we belong as part of this society. Men feel disposable. Men feel like nobody's listening to what men's problems are. Nobody cares. They just want us to shut up and continue working, put our heads down and continue working. And when it's coming from both sides, this shaming, whenever men try to express how they feel, whether that be to a man or woman, and they're getting put down or shamed or they're getting bullied for it, it makes them feel like, what's the use? They can't speak out again because they're just too ashamed. Or maybe it was once or twice, but maybe it was multiple times where it happened. And they just think, there's nothing I can do. I give up. I'm going to keep my head down and keep working. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to stop talking because there's no point, because nobody seems to care. And they're right. That nobody really does care in America and the West. Nobody does care about men. So, again, I think there can be change in the West and America if people start, if people are more willing to talk about men's issues. People are more willing to help men, but I don't think that's going to happen. We have so many things wrong in today's society when it comes to men and getting help for men. We have bad therapists that don't know what they're doing. There's no financial support for men like there is for women. You can go into a shelter, but there are far and few between. There are no domestic abuse shelters, at least for men. If you're getting domestically abused by a man or a woman, there's nothing you can really do. The courts are stacked against you. People are stacked against you. Your word as a man, if something happens to you, is not believed because men are painted to be predators by default. So all these things in society, all the ways that men are treated in society, all these bad ways that we're treated, things need a drastic change in the West if we're to make any progress. But I don't think we're going to. And again, I think that's why a lot of men are giving up and going overseas. And I don't blame them for doing that either. They say go where you're welcome. I believe the phrase is, correct me if I'm wrong, is go where you're wanted, not where you're unwanted. So I think men are waking up to this. I think men are seeing that the grass is greener on the other side due to videos like Password Bros, due to other videos on YouTube. They're seeing what life can be like, and they're like, screw this. I'm not getting paid in anything. The bills are just piling up. I'm not getting treated right by society. I don't feel heard. And so they're saying screw it. And I think that's why a lot of men are checking out of society, and some men are even checking out of America. So, and to sum it up, I think that's why men are so miserable, and I think that's why men are checking out of society. I think there needs to be drastic changes here in America in order to, in order to give men a reason to continue to go on, to even live, as dark as that sounds, because the suicide rates for men are just astronomical compared to women, and especially here in America. And there's nothing being done about that either. It's a scary thing when men are dropping out of the workforce. They're not dating anymore. They're staying inside, basically living the life of a hikikomori in Japan, which is a shut-in. And if we keep going down this path of not caring about men's problems in America, and we just keep shunning men and telling men to shut up and shaming them for speaking out, then this is going to get to a point where I don't even want to think about it. But that's going to be the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts on this. This was kind of more of a darker video, but these are my true, unfiltered, raw thoughts. I did this video on the fly. This is genuinely how I feel. So let me know what you think of this video. Put a comment down below. Like this video if you liked it. And yeah, guys, these are my thoughts. Things need to change if things need to change if men are going to go back into the workforce and men are going to participate in society. Because if they don't, you're going to see more men dropping out of the workforce. You're going to see more men leaving America. You're going to see more men just dropping out of society in general and going the hikikomori route, like the men in Japan. So that's the end of the video. Until next time, guys, deconstructing narcissism. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.